This election is coming to a close as Donald Trump has now caught up in the RCP aggregate as of October 26, 10 days before the presidential election. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics. And today we're going to be looking at what happens if we look at the polling data that's underestimated Donald Trump and see what happens if we apply the polling errors to see where the states end up on election day. Hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this. Let's try to get to 1,000 subscribers before election day. Now, looking at this, even liberal forecasters like Let's Talk Elections actually have Donald Trump winning the 2024 election, despite him more than likely severely underestimating the former president. But when looking at the battleground states, the first state is the state of Nevada, where Donald Trump, as of right now, has a 0.7 percentage point lead, with Biden polling about 6 points better than what Kamala Harris is polling at right now in the state of Nevada. If we were to apply this shift of about 6 points to the 2.5 point win from 4 years ago, you would actually get a Trump +4 result in the state of Nevada. I actually have Donald Trump winning the state by about 5 percentage points in my forecast, but we do see the state of Nevada is a +4 state for him when you look at the polling data and apply the shift from the 2020 election. Looking at the state of Arizona, we can see in the state of Arizona, as of right now, Donald Trump is doing extremely well. He leads in the state aggregate by 1.5%, and Biden was polling about almost 4 points better than Kamala Harris's as of right now. The polling aggregate ended up being pretty close because all the polls ended up hurting to Donald Trump's direction at pretty much the very end of the election. And so when looking at the state aggregate, if you applied this shift here to the tied result from the 2020 election, we would see about a 3-point win in the state of Arizona. I think he's probably going to do way better than this in Arizona. The sample in the polling is a lot more Democrat than years past, so I'm expecting a bigger polling error in a place like Arizona. Looking at a place like Colorado, the only poll on RCP is a D+11 poll, so we will put it in the likely Democrat column as of right now. New Mexico, another critical battleground state, which is going to be closer than the polling suggests. I mean, the polling aggregate here does have Harris polling ahead by 7.7%, but not a lot of polling has actually been done in the state in October, and so it is in the likely column, but Donald Trump's campaign may even send him to New Mexico because they are seeing something in that state that could potentially be brewing. In the state of Texas, another key battleground state as of right now, Donald Trump leads by 6 percentage points in the state of Texas. Funny enough, in the state of Texas, just a couple of years ago, Donald Trump was narrowly leading the RCP aggregate. This puts him at about a +10 point victory in Texas as of right now. Looking at Nebraska's 2nd congressional district, the two polls have Kamala Harris winning pretty easily. So for the sake of the video, we will be putting these in the likely Democrat column. The state of Iowa is another fascinating state, not even a battleground anymore. We have the one and Seltzer poll from the Trump versus Harris matchup. But when you look at the state of Iowa, the polling has severely underestimated Donald Trump by multiple points. This puts the state in the likely category for this video. Looking at the state of Minnesota, another key battleground state for this election, Kamala Harris only up by 4.7% here as of right now. If we were to go to the 2020 matchup in Minnesota, we'd actually see that the polls overestimated Joe Biden in the polling aggregate by 2 points. And so if we were to apply that to here, we would get about a lean margin in Minnesota, although I do think it's going to be even closer than this. Wisconsin is an interesting battleground because the polling here has actually been pretty abysmal. Right now, Donald Trump is polling over 5.5 points better than he did just a couple years ago, and the polls overestimated Joe Biden by about 6 points. And so if you were to apply that, you would actually get a very similar margin to what I'm forecasting in the 2024 election in the state of Wisconsin. Looking at Michigan, another key battleground state where Donald Trump has been underestimated, we see that Joe Biden was polling 9 points better as of right now. And we see here that the aggregate ended up overestimating Joe Biden by quite a bit as of right now. And so when we look at this and we see this, if you applied this 9-point shift to basically the result of about 3 points here, you would actually end up getting a likely margin in the state of Michigan for Donald Trump, which is very fascinating. In a state like Ohio that was likely Republican last time, the aggregate, however, is interesting because we can actually see in 2020, Trump only led the aggregate by 0.6% and went on to win it by 8. Now, Donald Trump is, in fact, polling ahead by 7 points. 7 points better than he was last time when he won the state by 8. If we were to add this, Donald Trump would actually be up in the state of Ohio by over 15 points. Looking at a state like Florida, a state that used to be a battleground but is no longer a battleground. It is actually going to be safe Republican. Looking at this, an 8-point lead in the aggregate. Biden was actually polling ahead at this time. And not only that, he actually ended up finishing ahead in the polling aggregate in the state of Florida. And so Donald Trump is polling significantly better in the state of Florida. If you were to add this margin, he'd be up by 12 points in the state of Florida, which is right around where we have his margin in the state. Looking at the battleground state of Georgia, a key battleground that flipped to Joe Biden in the last cycle, Donald Trump is polling about 2 points better than he was before. If we were to add this to the result of a tilt Biden win, a lean margin in Georgia would be the result that we would get. Looking at a place like North Carolina, another key battleground, we see that Donald Trump is polling about 2 points better than he was against Joe Biden, and the aggregate did underestimate him in RCP by a point. So this will go in the lean Republican column for this video. Looking at a place like Virginia, another key battleground that has been surprisingly close in the aggregate compared to years past, where Joe Biden had a couple of a big lead. He probably had a 12-point lead in the aggregate. And so right now, Kamala Harris is polling significantly worse than Joe Biden. This puts the state in the lean Democrat column for this video. Looking at a state like Pennsylvania, the Keystone State, no pun intended, we look, Donald Trump is polling about 5 points better in the state. And if you were to add that to the 1-point margin here, you would get a lean margin in the state of Pennsylvania for the former president. Looking at New Hampshire and Maine, the two final battlegrounds on this map, we would see that New Hampshire is only a 6-point lead for Kamala, when right now, roughly give or take, Joe Biden was leading by 11 points in the previous cycle. If you were to add the 5-point, underperformance for Kamala Harris and add it to the margin here, you would see that right now Kamala Harris would only lead the state by about 2 points. And looking at Maine at large, the lead there was about D plus 11 on 538. Here we have a pretty big lead. So for the sake of this video, I will be putting it in the likely Democrat column. This is not my official forecast, but is merely looking at where Donald Trump is standing based on how much better he's outperforming in the polling aggregates as of right now. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.